Welcome to Right on the Money, the weekly talk show with interviews you can use to help you maximize your money and optimize your financial future. Before moving forward with any of the ideas discussed on the show, always consult your financial advisor, insurance professional, or tax consultant. Looking for financial help or a second opinion? We can help you in your search. And now, your host of Right on the Money, syndicated financial columnist and money-colored commentator, Steve Savant.
In this segment, we're talking about the Hispanic aversion to debt, and but with popular bilingual speaker and financial consultant Karina Gutierrez. Now, a lot of this is cultural because you're coming from places where it's cash on cash. You can't borrow money economically. It's too high, double digit. It's like here we have payday loans here in the United States. It's really hurting the poor. They're living check to check. They have to go to payday loans. I'm not down on them. I'm sure there's reasons maybe you could use them, but I wouldn't want to live like that, okay? Now, the aversion of debt, when I think about debt, I'm thinking about, we talked about a housing debt. That's kind of changing, right? Some of people in the Hispanic culture are saying, okay, 4% is very low rate. It's also deductible on my taxes. That's okay. What about car? I want to buy my car. I don't want to pay cash. That takes too long. I want that car now. How about car debt?
They are a little bit more open to that as well. I can tell you, in our countries, it's not. It's very expensive. So we save. And we buy the car we can afford. It doesn't have to be a brand new car. But here in the US, they are more open to the idea of financing their car because it's not as a drastic shift because it's a shorter term loan. And it's affordable.
Okay, so maybe the mortgage now, hey, that's a change. Another change is buying an auto, a car, could be a really nice used car or maybe brand new. There's a lot of deals out there all the time. And you have to have good credit for all this, right? Now, how do you teach people who have never practiced credit because they never did it? It was a cash society. You're moving from cash society to a managed debt society where they use debt tastefully. Hopefully you're buying a good home tastefully. Hope you're getting a good value for your auto. And you're even financing your college education, right? How can I introduce that? And I can see the younger people changing way faster than the people who are coming here for the first time. But you tell me.
Yes, and when we teach them and when we explain how important it is in this country to have a credit history, they start getting their wet feet. We explain here in the US, if you don't have credit, you are no one. I mean, we really need to be put into the financial system.
Okay, well, let's just talk about Karina here. Let's just say, okay, you came in the US. You're now a US citizen. Now what do I do with my credit? I don't have any credit. How do you get credit from nowhere to having credit?
Okay, at the beginning, you need to have a deposit, let's say $1,000 deposit in the bank, and that money in the bank is going to give you access to the first credit card that is secured by the amount of money we have in the bank.
Now, in your previous home countries, were we putting money in the bank or did we not? Can we trust the bank? I mean, you tell me. I mean, think about Venezuela right now.
Yes.
I mean, inflation out of control. They nationalized the banks back in the day, right? People are nervous in Central America, so in certain parts of South America. So how can I get past that?
Well, there's people that, in Mexico it's not as extreme. I can give you the example of Mexico. The current situation of Venezuela is extreme. So it's not the typical norm in all Latin American countries at every single moment. But we do trust the banks. Not a lot of the money is in there. A lot of the people manage themselves with cash. They have a lot of cash at home. And we have money in the bank. Our economy is not as oriented as having credit, period.
So how do I develop that?
We pay with cash.
So how did you do it? How did you go from nothing to a good credit rating? How did you do that?
Well, as I said initially, you start with a secure credit card. The limit of the credit card is based on the amount of money you have in the bank. After 6 months, a year of having, revolving debt, paying on time, you start being able to have access to credit.
So how long do you think it takes a person from nothing to establishing credit? Is it 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? What do you think it is?
Could be 2 to 3 years.
Okay, so that's not that long. That's not long.
Yeah.
When you came here, how hard was it to learn English?
Well, I was born in the US, but I was raised in Mexico. So in Mexico, we do have schools that are bilingual. So it was just a matter of practicing. I will say by being embedded in the culture 6 months to a year, once you have some knowledge of English that it was learned in your home country.
You know, this is huge in your practice in Houston because you are bilingual. So sometimes you're looking at contracts. You have to tell them, hey, this is what a policy says. This is what maybe if you're doing a security, you're looking at the actual prospectus. You know, it's hard enough for us to read in English. Now you got to translate it into Spanish so they can understand, oh, what am I getting? What am I doing? What does the provision say? Do you find a lot of that's a part of a lot of your practice is interpretation?
Yes, of course. The clients do feel comfortable talking about their personal finances in their first language. It's very important for us as Latin Americans to talk about these topics in our own language, especially because we don't trust. We need to invest in developing a relationship. And it's not something personal. It's just part of our culture. We just don't trust anybody. We always invest in developing those relationships. Once we've earned the trust of a client, he will be with us forever.
Now, when you were in school, if I have this right, I want to make sure I got the math right here. A valedictorian is the number one in the class, but the number two person that usually gives the speech, what do they call that? It's valedictorian's number one. What's number two?
Salutatorian?
Yes, and you were salutatorian of your class, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now that you're over here, you already had English. You was part of your training as a young child. Your kids, no problem, bilingual, or they've moved on to English?
Bilingual. And I enforce them.
You force them to do it.
to speak Spanish at home. That's all we do. At home, we only speak Spanish.
So
they get all their practice that they need in their school, but at home, we always speak Spanish. It's so important to be bilingual, especially in this country, especially in Texas.
And remember, the whole financial community, even worldwide, is based on English. It just is. So we have really influenced the world. America has really influenced the world on issues of the economy and finance. Now, when I'm thinking about building my credit for the first time, I have it now. I'm using it. I'm buying a home. I'm buying a car. I'm financing my education. All this is so new. So do you kind of dip your toe into the water, or do you it's better to just adopt it and embrace it?
Well, the sooner you get into the system, the better. And there's always two types of credits that you need to be working on, the revolving and the long-term credit. But in order to get to the long-term credit, which will be a home or a car, we will have to get the revolving credit going first. Then we go with the car, which is much easier to get a loan for a car, and then we'll go to the home.
Is it harder, male or female, to develop credit in the United States?
I would think it's equal.
Pretty much equal.
It's equal. It will depend on who's the breadwinner in the house. So
is there one breadwinner, or are there two?
Usually, well, depends in what kind of stage in life they are. If they have small children, it's only the man, the one that is working, and usually the female stays at home taking care of the kids.
So there has some traditional and conventional. Now, putting that into a very new culture like ours, where dual income, raising kids, they call it DIRKs. Those are the DIRKs, D-I-R-K. Dual income raising kids, pretty much the norm.
It's not the norm in Latin American culture.
And even here in the U.S.
Even here in the U.S., it's happening and it's shifting because, again, the cost of living here in the U.S. it's much higher. But still, a Hispanic family, if they could afford it, they will make the numbers, and if they could afford it, they will manage for the wife to stay at home, at least when the kids are little. And then when they are at school age, they could go back to work.
We're seeing so much a shift in the United States and the world. The world is shrinking. Global markets are getting close. We know everybody. We're speaking multiple languages. We're diverse. It's changing everything that we've understood about money.
For more information on this week's money topics, just go to our website at www.rightonthemoneyshow.com and follow Steve's daily postings on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. When it comes to retirement, money management, small business, insurance coverage, college funding, or budgeting, we have the interviews you can use.